Okay, so we are live. So we'll wait a moment until we have people joining us. But remember, this is going to be recorded as well, so people can watch it later on as well. But in the meantime, we'll just tell people we started slightly late anyway, didn't we? Because we both had deliveries, good, well-timed deliveries just before we went live. So, okay, so let's just start, Charlie, with just telling us a little bit about your life pre-TMS, mind-body symptoms, or whatever. Or was there a life pre-symptoms, which many of us have had?
Do you know what? When I was thinking about this story, the first thing I started with was my pain began. I didn't actually think about my life before.
Right.
But there was a life. There was.
Yeah, good.
I mean, well, actually, yeah. Then when you start thinking when my symptoms actually began, you realise how early they did.
Yeah, it's when you start reflecting back, isn't it?
Yeah. But pre any symptoms that were debilitating me enough to notice them that much.
Yes.
I developed really bad symptoms at about 20 years old. So I had, my childhood and teenage years. I loved life, had a really big passion and energy for life. Very sociable kid, loved being active. Like that's one thing that still resonates with me now. I'm just naturally very active. I just love running around. My dad used to take me to the park at like 5 a.m. when I was a baby, and we'd climb over the fence because it was locked.
Wow.
So yeah, very active child.
So active parents, presumably.
Well, yes, exactly. You need the parent to be able to take that. So maybe it was my dad, and then I just had to adopt that.
Yes, got it. I just want to say hello to people who are joining us, by the way, and do put in some comments, let us know you're there, and obviously as we're going along you can ask some questions. But yes, sorry, carry on, Charlie.
Great. Hi, everyone. So I was quite an anxious child. I used to get anxious at very small things, sometimes like blobs on my socks, I'm very sensory, and was anxious about the time for school. None of them had much of an obvious cause why I would be anxious about these things. But, kids, there's a lot going on. So just sort of my parents helped me get through those things. And then I just continued through school and stuff. And now looking back on my personality traits, I can see many things. Like I was big time perfectionist and workaholic in the sense in school and stuff. But I really did enjoy my school years. I had a really good time overall. And then I finished school. I did struggle a lot with anxiety during exams, just putting a lot of pressure on myself. I wasn't in a very good headspace, and I didn't really care for myself too much. Wasn't quite aware of really what self-care was. I knew that going for a run helped me feel better, but that was about my limit. I was a swimmer as well, like a competitive swimmer.
Right.
I think that did help with a lot of my anxiety and stuff. And then I eventually gave that up when school got really, A-levels got intense and stuff.
That often happens, doesn't it? And it's such a shame that sort of some of these things that help us in that time, we're so busy with exams and everything and then studying, that then often things like that fall apart, or you go to university and that you let go of that sort of thing. So
exactly.
Some of your coping mechanisms.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have healthy ones, and then suddenly you have to find other ones, and sometimes they're not as healthy.
Yeah.
Especially at uni and stuff. So I went to uni. I went to study biochemistry. So I always had a really big interest in how the body works. Science overall, but specifically the body as opposed to other kinds of science.
Right.
Very much like a science mind. So I studied biochemistry at Bristol. After 1 year, I wasn't quite sure about my choices and was quite unhappy in myself. So I just decided to take a year out and just pause and thought, there's no rush. It's just, this is a lot of money. I'm going to make sure I actually want to do this degree and not continue down the line. So I took a year out. Then I went traveling after I'd made some money because I thought, I don't want to just work. I want to do something fun.
Yeah.
Being a person,
makes
So I went traveling to New Zealand because I do have family there, like apart from New Zealand. And that's when it all started to collapse, really, all fall down, all my health and just everything, really. I developed an injury, and this was a really specific, genuine injury in my foot. I bought some new shoes and decided to wear them every single day. That will be my only shoe I'm going to wear because I don't want to carry walking boots and trainers. I thought it was like a great idea to wear this one shoe, but it was brand new trainers that I'd never worn in my life. I just bought them once I landed, and they just were rubbing on one of my heels, my right foot.
Right.
Turns out it was actually something wrong with the shoe because my friend put them on and she got the pain as well.
Right.
So I don't think it was even like my foot shape, but these things happen. But I continued pushing through the pain for a number of reasons. One, I was traveling, but two, I was someone that was like, no, I'm going to push until it stops me completely. So that did resonate with me later on down the line when I realized I didn't listen to my body.
Yes.
It was like a massive thing in my head saying, if only you listened. So continued on traveling, limping, and the pain was just getting worse and worse. I mean, I wasn't changing the shoe and I was still hiking up these mountains in New Zealand. So it was no surprise. And then it got really bad that I couldn't walk. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this now. And so the pain started in my heel as an injury would, like a hard lump on my heel. And then it gradually went up my leg, calf, hamstring, glute. As probably a normal sports injury would, if you just weren't resting and you kept walking on this limp.
Well, then again, if you've injured your foot, there's no real reason that it would actually
you're right.
cause an injury anywhere else. People would say that, oh, I've been walking awkwardly, but our bodies adapt. They adapt and get used to things.
That is a really good point. Yeah. I think, that is a good point. Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that 20 years ago as a physio, of course.
Yeah. No, exactly.
But now,
I'd be thinking, physio answers to that specific injury then.
And just before we carry on, I just want to say hello again. Don't want to ignore people who are there with us. And Penny George, Dave Clark, nice to see you both here. We'll be mentioning you later on, Penny, with Living Proof. But nice to see you. And if anybody wants to pop in and say hello or ask any questions as we're going along, do. And then we'll pause and ask the questions to Charli as we're going through. Sorry about that, Charli. Carry on.
So I decided it was time to come home and actually get some treatment for this lump on my foot. So I couldn't travel. Flew home. Once I landed home, I did end up hurting myself again. I fell off my bike. So it was like two physical things that happened to me, like physical traumas, that did send me into this like sort of trigger of a lot of widespread pain. And when I look back on it, I realized actually there was a big chunk of time where I didn't have pain after that. So my body did heal as injuries do heal.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of time. It was really just rest. I just had to rest. I had to sit down and stop walking. And I broke my ribs when I fell off my bike. I needed to just rest them because, they're bad ones to break as well. It caused a lot of pain.
Very painful.
Yeah. So I did get physio for the leg. And again, with the rest, it completely healed. But I kind of forgot that when I then ended up developing some more pain. I think I had a few months of like the pain had subsided and I stopped seeing my physio because I was like, I don't need to spend money anymore on this. I'm fine. And then pain started coming back, but in a different spot. It was in my hip. However, it was on the same side of that whole injury.
Yeah.
So I just presumed, hip pain. It must be because something happened in my leg when I was limping for ages. So it made a lot of sense to me at the time that it was an injury or related to an injury. So I spent a lot of time and money looking at why I had hip pain. First, I went through the NHS treatments, but then they couldn't offer me anything. They offered me some physio. It didn't help. I didn't want to try anything like drugs or surgery yet because, I mean, I'm very young and I'm naturally like really into sports. So I thought, no, physio is the way forward.
Yes.
I tried a lot of physio, like a lot. And when someone tells me to do an exercise and practice it, I will do it. So I did it to how they wanted. I wasn't like not doing my exercises at home. And nothing was really helping. And I think I'm lucky in the sense that because I'm like have such a passion for exercise and movement, I was so determined to find the answer that from day one of pain, I was like on a mission to figure it out. Whereas I think some people might accept like, oh, I can't do squats in the gym, but I can still hobble to work. Whereas I was like, no, we're finding out this answer like ASAP. So I was looking a lot from the start of that pain episode. As I was looking, the pain was actually just getting worse and worse. Was spreading from my hip to my glute to my lower back. And it got really bad when my psoas seemed to get involved. So the psoas muscle, a big hip flexor muscle. And it was getting so tight that I was like physically changing my posture, like crippled over.
Right.
And couldn't walk from it. Like this big muscle and just agony. So that's when I started trying all the different kinds of treatment you can try for pain. The injections, drugs, both kind, like the morphine based, and also there's ones that kind of help with the nervous system, apparently. They're kind of antidepressants, but they're meant to be for chronic pain.
Yes.
Nothing helped. Like I got to high doses of all of them and they weren't helping enough, and it didn't really resonate with me to be on loads of drugs. I didn't think that was the answer. So tried myofascial release. I spent a lot of money on that, like a lot of money. And sometimes it would help for like a moment because, you know, they'd ease out something.
Yes.
Walk out thinking I'm pretty good. And then one day later or less, it was back to how it was.
Yeah. So it's treating the symptom again rather than the underlying.
Yeah, I was always treating the symptom. Yeah. There was one time when I found this treatment, which was called prolotherapy. I mean, none of these things I think helped, by the way, but they're good to know that I tried them. And they inject oxygen, actually, or water, saline water, into the places that hurt.
Yeah.
And that's meant to like help release something. It didn't, funnily enough. And I have to have injections in my neck. It's really scary to have injections in your neck.
Yes.
Especially from not like a, you know, you're going to a private clinic. You're never quite sure where you found this person. Obviously, they are completely trained and stuff, but it's just scary stuff.
Yes, quite.
Yeah. And then
things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so invasive. There were a few times when I ended up going to A&E because my muscles were just tensing up so much that they were just spasming, and my whole torso was contracting like inwards like that, and I just had no idea what was going on. I really thought it was something quite severe because it was really, really bad pain. And again, they couldn't help me because they were just like, here's some paracetamol. We don't think there's anything else we could do. So yeah, I felt very hopeless because no one could help. Some osteopath said I was the tightest person they'd ever felt, so I can't help you. You'll have to go somewhere else, but I'm not sure where. Great.
Less hope.
Yeah, less hope. And at 21, you're like, how am I the tightest person? I'm only 21.
Why am I so different? What's wrong with me?
Yeah. So yeah, you could physically feel the tension from the exterior. So for so long, I did think like, you know, then therefore the treatment is going to be something externally.
Yes.
From the external point.
Yeah. So many of us think when we're going through things like that.
Yeah. And I mean, this continued for like a long time, just treatment after treatment, just trying something and it failing. And I then went back to uni, even though I still had chronic pain, but decided to stay in London to do my degree and continue my degree at King's College London. And the pain got a little bit better. And then once my living situation got a bit more stressful and uni got stressful, the pain really flared up. That's when it started to become completely debilitating.
But presumably you weren't aware of the link at the time.
Not really, but I did started to ask myself, okay, some days it's really bad and some days it's not.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference? And sometimes I'd write it down. I was just looking at some notes earlier from like some notebooks I had, and I was writing things like, I really think I need to start meditating. I just feel so stressed and debilitated by pain. So I knew I needed to calm something down. I just wasn't quite sure what or how. Before I like found this whole technique, and well, just way of living, really, actually.
Yes, if I say, not even just a technique.
No, it's not a technique.
Change in understanding and, like you say, way of living.
Yeah, exactly. And then, to be honest, the myofascial release I was having, the physical part of it didn't do anything for my pain recovery. But some of the things they had said in the sessions, firstly, they were always trying to release my psoas muscle, which is a muscle that's linked to your fight or flight, to the nervous system, and that fight or flight response. And also the fact they kept saying, I can physically feel like you're not letting go of something.
Right.
Now, maybe they could or they couldn't, but it resonated with me. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not letting go? And then I thought about it a bit more, and I was like, yeah, I think there's, like, deep down I knew there was a lot of stress that I was not dealing with. And like the more I then just started thinking about how could this be slightly related to my emotions, it just kind of clicked that could be a way forward. So I was quite receptive to it, because I kind of knew deep down that I hadn't been looking after myself, any self-compassion, like kind of neglecting myself inside for quite a long time.
And just desperately trying to hold on to everything, the stress that you've been through.
Yeah, exactly. And even from about the age of 16, I kind of knew I was doing that. I just didn't really know a way out of it. So
this is who you were, and this is how you lived your life. You know, how are we to know that maybe this is playing part, unless we learn somehow.
Yeah, that's so true. Exactly. Yeah, and you need to see other lives and stuff like that. Yeah. So I started down the route of self-discovery and, well, this route of learning. The first thing you need to do, learn a bit more about it before you can know anything else. And I read John Sarno's book. I don't know who recommended it to me. It might have been my myofascial release therapist. Right. But it could have been that I Googled, like, mind, body, pain, psoas, and I put enough things in, and then it finally came up. And then his book came up, and I read some reviews about it before I read it, and I was like, okay, definitely reading that. So I read the book, Healing Back Pain. Read it quite quickly because I was obviously fascinated with it. And then this was in a summertime. I then tried to apply the techniques, as in within the next 2 days. Did some physical activity. My pain flared up crazy, and I was like, didn't work, not for me. So I didn't throw the book away. It was actually on my Kindle, but
I have heard some people have.
Yeah. So that's true. Yeah. So I just disregarded it.
Sorry, can I stop you at that point? By that point, had you got any diagnoses? Had you been given any diagnoses?
Oh, sorry, yes, I did miss that. That's quite key. Yes. So I did chase after lots of diagnoses.
Right.
So I got lots of MRIs, X-rays, stuff like that, which is good to rule out anything really dangerous, tumors, anything like that.
Yeah.
And they did diagnose me with slight hip dysplasia. At first, I thought that meant I had like full-on hip dysplasia, which is really obvious from when you're born. So it was a bit weird that I figured it out at this age. And then they were like, oh no, it's very mild. I was like, okay, what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I got diagnosed with degenerative disc disease, bulging discs. And then eventually I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
Right.
Yeah, because I had taken up hot yoga to try and ease the pain. And it did accentuate my flexibility.
Right.
So it wasn't really obvious before I did the hot yoga that I was even hypermobile. And then I did the hot yoga and I became very supple and flexible. And then it was quite easy to obtain that diagnosis once I got to the right consultant. And he actually said to me, he said, well, yeah, you've got Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. What do you want me to do about it? I was like, don't know. And then he was like, well, there's no treatment, is there?
Do you know what? That was the next thing I was going to say was, what have you been told that you think got in the way? And this is one of them, isn't it? Well, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, pretty much. Although he did say, what do you want me to do about it? And I was like, I want you to refer me to a hypermobility thing. I was just trying to get some more help.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, the best thing you can do is just get really strong. And he just said it so black and white. And I mean, he's got a point. Maybe it doesn't necessarily help with pain, but if you're naturally someone that has unstable joints, it does help to stabilize them through strengthening.
Absolutely.
Just to be strong and be able to move, and especially live the life I live, which is very active.
Yes.
So I mean, yeah, it was definitely not helpful in that sense, but it made me think, okay, anything I do is going to have to come from me.
And was he also linking the pain that you had with this Ehlers-Danlos syndrome?
He did actually, yeah. He said, yes, it brings lots of pain. And he said, for some people, they have no pain, and some people they do. And I did think, well, why do some have pain and some don't?
Right. Yeah.
And then I obviously thought, okay, it's my EDS, Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, EDS. That's why I've got pain. And I started blaming everything on EDS for a while.
And as Dave Clark's just pointed out, most people with hypermobility have no pain.
There you go. Yes.
Unless they dislocate something, and then of course, if somebody's dislocated a joint, you're going to have pain, but then it will settle down. But it's definitely not the cause of disability.
Exactly. And my dad, who's hypermobile, probably why I'm hypermobile, he's got zero chronic pain.
Right.
And I had loads. So there you go. There's the evidence. But I did think, okay, I need to, like, I'm a big problem solver. So the second I heard about CDS, I was like, right, what can I actually do? Okay, I'm going to have to do loads of physio. So I started doing it because I thought it would help. And we got my hip really stable, the one that was causing pain.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the pain didn't decrease at all. The pain was still really bad. And my physio, she literally looked at me like really confused and perplexed. And she's like, Charlie, you're looking really good. She meant like my hip is looking strong.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I feel rubbish. So then I realized, actually, I think this pain is maybe not EDS related. It's something else, especially how I had extreme back pain. And I never worried that my spine was unstable. Like I was able to stand up. So clearly my spine was all right.
Yes.
So I was able to let go of the fact that my pain was not related to the fact I'm just hypermobile.
So that's good. So that doing all the strengthening, working with the physio, at least helped you see that there wasn't a link between strengthening.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. It did give me that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think, did I receive any more? I did. Oh yeah, I did receive some more diagnoses actually. I received one about a degenerative jaw disease called condylar resorption. Okay. And I mean, I probably do have it because like my jaw joints have like receded, but there's no reason why that should cause pain. Yeah. But they say when they diagnose you with it, oh yes, like 50% of people that have it have severe jaw pain. And at the time I was having jaw pain. So obviously it's another thing to just like, 2 + 2 = 5.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What about the other 50%?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was struggling with jaw pain for a long time through that and felt, and I almost started going down a route of having a jaw replacement surgery, which is
really
surgery.
Wow.
They said it's your only answer to help.
Oh, goodness.
And, yeah. NHS only give it if your jaw cannot really open though. And I can open my jaw. So luckily NHS were like, no, we're not going to let you have that. And they stopped me. So it was good in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I was receiving lots of different things. I did receive a PoTS diagnosis actually, but I really haven't struggled with PoTS badly.
Right.
It's only been when I've like been in like really bad flares, or if I have had like a really bad illness, like a virus. And so I feel like I won't speak too much about that because I don't feel like I have that much experience of that.
No, that's fine. Okay, and we've had another success story where they talked about PoTS as well. So we'll just ignore that for now.
Cool. Okay, and then what was I going to say? Yeah, so I mean, I guess I disregarded this mind-body thing, and then continued with the physical therapies, and again, they weren't helping. And then once I did this week intensive treatment of myofascial release, and it just wasn't getting me anywhere. And a week intensive of it is a lot of money.
Yeah.
They said a few more things that led me down the route of, okay, maybe this has emotional aspect. And then I was like, I think I said to my parents, I was living with them at the time, I was like, I need to make a decision. I either need to learn more about this Sano route and really go for it and forget everything else, or not do it, because I knew that it wasn't going to work if you did it half-assed. And not even half-assed, just with half belief, or 99% belief. You want to have all your commitment to it.
Yeah, although initially it's very hard for most people to have that 100% belief. And it can be a journey as you come across aha moments and things like that. So
that's
most people when they start, they're not fully believing, as you wouldn't have been when you started. But I see what you mean, that focusing on that, stopping the physical side of things, that can be confusing.
I guess both. Exactly. I had like 4 or 5 months between first reading Sarno's book and then coming to that realization. So probably things were slowly sinking in.
Yes.
I was following a few or joined a few Facebook communities that talk about TMS, body symptoms, hearing those success stories. The more I hear,
seeds were being sown and beginning to flourish.
Yeah, they were starting to flourish. And then I was at uni, and I think I was lucky enough in the sense that I wasn't in a full-time job. I mean, I was in a full-time degree, but I was able to say to uni, like, look, I can't even move. I'm just lying on the floor all day. I'm not going to do my work anymore. I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to go do this pain stuff. Like, there's no point in me being here if I just can't deliver anything. So they just said, yeah, okay, whatever. They have to say yes. But that's what unis are for. They give you those circumstances and stuff. So I basically switched from studying a biochemistry degree to studying this mind-body stuff. Like, I treated it like uni because in a good routine of, like, wake up, do my work, take a break, la la la. And I just flipped that, and switched it. Instead of doing university work, I just did this work.
Wow.
I really did treat it like a full-time job, and I feel lucky in the sense I could do that, because I know lots of people can't. They don't have the time, and
often it's not necessary to do that. And also it's as much the mindset as well. So there are people who obsessively read and analyze and review and everything. And it sounds like you didn't have that mindset, and that you were interested and curious and wanting to learn. So I just want to point out the difference in how some people approach the studying and needing to know everything. And because remember, some people have aha moments and the pain eases, and they don't need all the information, but it is important that, yes, the understanding, the education comes first. But it sounds like you were doing it in the right way.
No, that's a good point. It didn't feel too obsessive either. It was like a bit, and then take a break, and then go for a run and see what happens to your pain, kind of thing. So it was much more like a curious discovery. And also I read a book by Steve Ozanich, The Great Pain Deception, and I think at the end of his book he's like, okay, take everything in that you've read and now throw this book away, or throw it all away. That was a good way to explain it. Like, you need, it's good to know it, but
absolutely,
don't it. So that did resonate, and like I kept that in mind. And then I really started that in this one time in like November or December, in a winter time. I think it was over like the Christmas break, and within 1 month of really learning, understanding, and then applying these methods. So essentially just believing that I was okay and that I could be pain-free, reminding myself of that, calming my nervous system. And I did a lot of journaling through that. That helped me calm my nervous system. And that was important to me, because I don't think I was in touch with my emotions, or even really knew how to feel them.
So that was your first point into this work, was it? The understanding, and then beginning to do some journaling.
Yeah, it really was. Well, actually, I'd say the first point is breathing. I don't think I was even breathing. Really.
I think you were, Charli.
But I'm like,
maybe not as a way to soothe your nervous system.
Yeah, exactly. True. I was definitely breathing, but I wasn't doing, and like to like just pay attention for like 5 minutes of my breath. I was like, what is that? I always knew it would be helpful, but I never realized how helpful it would be.
Great. So that's good. That's a good way in as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was just like constant in the sense that just frequent reminders to my nervous system of that I'm okay, and that was in different forms. So the journaling was helping my emotions come out, like the nervous system to calm, and also watching some YouTube videos, the books I've read, listening to some podcasts. So I was sort of just saw it as like this sort of like full pronged attack, but just like little doses of everything, as opposed to just like this is the one thing.
Yeah, and particularly by the sound of it, as you're working through all this, this is beginning, your beliefs are beginning to adapt and change, and the hope was increasing if you started to notice that things were changing. And hope is a huge part, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So I think first I started with hope from other people's stories, and then I found the hope within my own evidence.
And having our own evidence, I think, is so important, isn't it? It's all very well reading and seeing what's happening to other people. When you begin to notice it yourself, that's you're going to have more aha moments, I think. Really.
Yeah, that's so true.
I just want to say as well, whole Melon has just popped in and said, so helpful for me to watch this due to hypermobility. So great. So hopefully you'll reduce your fear about the hypermobility as we're going through this whole.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So any questions, just let me know. Yeah. And then actually thinking about it, before I did start all the work, I used to still try and do exercise, some form of movement when I was in pain, because I just love it so much. And I was doing Pilates and it wouldn't hurt. Like I wouldn't have pain. And I remember telling my Pilates teacher, like, yeah, I didn't have any pain today. And he goes, why do you think that is? And at first I was like, no idea. And then I was like, I think I just feel quite safe. And now I realized quite soon after that it was just calming my nervous system. So it was just a way of calming my nervous system. Yes. And so just anything like that. There were like those moments where I was like, oh, when I'm in a more calm state, I have less pain.
Doing something you love. Yeah.
Doing something I love. Yeah. Yeah.
So Kat is saying here that she got an HEDS diagnosis last year, and it kind of explained everything, but didn't. Yeah, I think that's often the case. As previously, before major stressors, I hadn't had joint pain at all. That's the thing. I think, how many years have you had EDS, if that's the diagnosis you're given, before you developed pain that ended up you then going for the diagnosis? I mean, how many people are hypermobile anyway? And they don't know, because they don't have a problem that then needs to go and have a diagnosis, be given a diagnosis.
Yeah, and they I think it's even in the like in Google, in the literature, that often EDS symptoms present after a stressor in your life, an emotional one, not a physical like accident. And it's like, well, why has that happened?
Big clue. So sorry, carry on.
So then, okay, I guess, it was like a upward spiral, if you can say that. Often people say downward spiral, don't they? It was an exponential increase, maybe that, of just feeling better. I mean, maybe not day to day, but it proved I thought that anything that was going to work was going to take ages, because I'd been in pain for years, and like severe pain. And within a month, I was feeling so much better.
And presumably, like you said, you weren't just like that, and that you were sort of having ups and downs. And I think that's for many people. And it's okay to have a day when you feel despair and feel awful, but then to actually look, okay, where have I come from? And look at the progress that you've made, rather than I'm not there yet. I think that's, and to keep that evidence sheet of what you've been able to do. I think that's
the evidence sheet is really important. And I think I had a really big increase, and then I had a massive, call it a flare up, or something where I just went into complete pain again. But at least that time I knew, well, I'm not going to start going down the back surgery route. I'm going to start just doing the things that I knew that helped last time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just doing more of it, because it's true, we're busy humans and we don't always have time to be calming our nervous system or making sure it's staying happy. And at that time, I think I've developed more flexibility within my nervous system through all this work. But near the beginning, it wasn't so flexible. So I would have more episodes of getting stuck in pain. That was okay.
Having a lot of tension, if there was an awful lot of tension as part of the TMS, then it would make you less flexible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then one thing that I actually kind of didn't realize until I went to the Surface Pain Conference recently.
Right. Yeah.
I hadn't put it together, but after I sort of say I recovered from my pain, in the sense that no more chronic pain. Sometimes I have a flare up on my back, but I know exactly why. It's because I've done something stressful, or it's coming up, and I know what to do.
So you're taking it as a barometer. There's something going on that needs addressing.
that needs
And,
addressing.
you know, all of us, we're all humans. We all have mind-body experiences. We all face stress. And it's about not then going into the fear, which will then drag you down, but actually go, oh, okay, what's going on now that I'm not doing?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
upping our self-care and things that we're doing to help.
Yeah, exactly. And actually saying, okay, I'll look inside. I'll give you some time, brain and body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I realized I was actually having a lot of fatigue after I recovered from my pain. And it was because I recovered from my pain, I could do more activity again. But there was something always ringing in my head about people with EDS get fatigued easily. And
Right.
they'd be like, okay, just make sure you don't do too much. You know, now you've recovered, but you have EDS and it's very easy to get fatigued from just, yeah. And I didn't think I was
put that into your subconscious.
big time. So I would do these things that I love doing, like big cycles or just doing lots of different things in one day or over a few days. And then I'd go into these crazy crashes, fatigue crashes. And I just accepted it that was how it was going to be. Like, well, look, my life is so much better now than it was. So those days are worth it. I was like, do you know what? 2 days a month or 1 day a week, that's fine. I've got the others. And then I think it was before the conference, I just realized I hadn't been having as many of these days. I kind of forgot about them because they weren't coming up as much. And naturally at first I was just like, oh, I'm probably just like doing less or not being as active.
Yes.
Or I'm just a bit happier, so it's not happening or something. And then I just started to realize and believe, like, wait a second, I don't need to be getting fatigued. I don't need to have these days of being wiped out on the sofa. And as humans, we all get tired and get fatigued. You know, when you have a long day at work, you just feel horrendous afterwards sometimes. And I used to fear, oh no, it's happened. I've gone too far. I'm going to have this fatigue. And I stopped fearing it. I started saying, yeah, you're tired. You're going to have a sleep. And then tomorrow you're going to be fine. And that really did transform that. And since I just changed that small self-talk, I haven't had a fatigue day since then.
So you made sense of it and reframed it. And I think language is so important as well. And I notice you use the word crash. Now, I really dislike that word because so many people who have fatigue or have chronic fatigue say, oh, I crashed. And if you think how toxic that word is, sort of a crash is sort of a mighty smash. And, you know, it's and it's about noticing how we're talking about things that are going on as well.
Yeah,
well, that's great insight.
Yeah, so that was actually quite recently. So it's interesting to see that, you know, I didn't even like it's still like kind of on the journey, and like I just didn't really put it together that it was going to be related.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So far on. I mean, once I started seeing it as like thinking about the nervous system, then I think you can understand it more. And the same with EDS. It's like just seeing it as some people have a more sensitive nervous system and more tendency to feel things a little more in their bodies, maybe. And others have a less sensitive nervous system, but it doesn't mean you're ill or.
No, quite. And the same with the diagnosis of, you know, or personality trait really of highly sensitive person. You know, yes, that's some people do have a highly sensitive person, but it's not an illness. It's about recognizing that and looking at how you can manage your life so that you actually don't push yourself out there and face more stress than you need to, for example.
Yeah.
And it's a normal trait that many of us have. I just want to read out, so Lorna Nicholson, so Lorna's one of our circle practitioners, and she specialises in PoTS and hypermobility and fatigue conditions. And she says that she's written a blog sharing her thoughts on hypermobility from a mind-body perspective, and she's put the link there. So thank you for doing that, Lorna. That's great.
Great.
And Dave says awareness of breathing is often a first step to awareness of emotions. So absolutely true. And you know, it's the first thing I will do with any client is observe their breathing and look at the breathing, and then start teaching some self-soothing breathing exercises. And the more we focus on being in the moment, self-soothing, grounding, emotional awareness, the more we start developing our felt sense, and the more aware we are of introspection, how we're feeling inside, the more likely we are to preempt a symptom often as well. So rather than having a symptom, actually, it's like I often explain it that if people have a migraine, often they'll have an aura before then. And so if they're having frequent migraines, if they have an aura, that's the opportunity to get in straight away, isn't it? To start using this more, to look at, okay, what might have been going on, but also improving your self-care, doing some grounding, some breath work, etc. But before the aura came a change in sensation. And so the more we are aware of emotions, the more we're likely to be able to start using that as our barometer for looking at what's going on, what's the signal, and what can I do about it, rather than waiting, not knowing that, not being aware of it, and ending up with a symptom. And this is why emotional awareness, somatic tracking, breath work is so important, and learning to just do more embodied work to notice what's going on in our body, rather than so busy looking outwardly all the time and rushing around that we're not aware of it at all.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yes. Paul's saying here, sorry, Charlie. Paul's saying, I find I unconsciously anticipate pain. Yeah, that's normal as well. But people who have pain, you have fear of it. So working on the fears can be really helpful. Using visualization to visualize yourself doing something without any pain can help, and feeling how wonderful it is to do the movements again can be helpful. But it's really anticipation of pain is due to fear. So the more you can work on the fears and develop your beliefs and hope with this, the more that will then start calming down. So should we just look at what Kat's written here, and then maybe I haven't read it yet, but Charlie, maybe you can respond to this. So having not exercised for years, going back to even walking up and down stairs is tiring. It would be easy to attribute that to fatigue, and I totally understand why you went down that route. I talk to myself frequently about how I'm not ill if I'm out of breath from working my body more, and that with a short rest, I will return to a state of comfort. Fantastic. And even if muscles have worked more, they may ache for a couple of days, but after that, they will be okay. But I will be okay. Yeah, absolutely, Kat. It's reframing these signals. And I found it really interesting, actually, I do a Commander Fit boot camp, and I found it really interesting. If I haven't been for a while, and then the next day, or usually 24 hours or so after that, I start to feel achy, I'm very aware that depending on my mood, depends on how uncomfortable that is. So it's so much about mindset and mood, and it can vary from moment to moment. Depending if I allow myself to sit quietly and maybe start feeling sorry for myself about something, I can very much be aware of the impact that has on how much aching I have.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Quite funny, isn't it?
So easy did you find that, Charlie, to reframe and really get your head around things?
I think it took a while. I knew that the goal was to do that, so I started applying ways I could do that. I did things like put on my phone screen, like the lock screen, so every time you look at your phone, start enjoying life with the pain. So I guess that is partly taking away the fear of the pain, because it's like, I'm not going to fear it. It can be there or it doesn't have to be there, but I'm still going to do my life. But I did a lot of these things before I actually believed it. A bit like the affirmations. I would say affirmations every day, had like 10. They were quite simple. It's like, I am pain-free. Moving, like sitting down is normal and pain-free for most people. I'm fine to sit down. That was something that hurt.
And how easy did you find that? Because many people would say, I say that, but I don't believe it. How long before you started beginning to believe
it? I think the first week or so, I was like, what is this? After that, I think because I really, really wanted it to work, and I had heard of other recovery stories, I was like, this is going to work. And I just did know deep down that if I wanted it badly enough, like if I really did want it, then it would work. But that was something that did just connect with me.
And sometimes what I suggest to people is, if they say something like, I am pain-free, and they know that in the back of their mind, no, I'm not, that I would say, we'll ask the question, what if I was pain-free?
Yeah.
That opens it up a bit more. To just think, but what if I was?
Yeah, or like, I am considering that I could be pain-free.
Yeah.
Add a layer that makes it that you can believe it, because your brain hears the words and not those other bits. So it hears the pain-free part.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hear like considering. Well, it probably does, but I don't know. I did read this somewhere, by the way. It's not.
Yeah, it's like the NLP, how they say that it doesn't your brain doesn't take on the no. So I don't want to. I don't know. Now I'm trying to think of a way you'd say it.
I know.
I don't have pain, so then it would not hear the don't, and it just takes on the pain. So having to be careful of how we speak to ourselves, and it's also about taking attention away from the pain. Because the neural pathways are a habit, and the more we focus on the pain or our fears, the more we are strengthening those neural pathways that are pain. So we're building more of a habit. So the more we can change the behaviors, change the way we talk to ourselves, focusing on other things, then the more we're developing healthier neural pathways, going out and seeing your friends, like you were saying, having fun in your life. That's so important, because pain becomes people's life, doesn't it? Yeah. And all they're thinking of is pain. All they're thinking about is how can I get rid of it, which again is not a great way to think about it. And avidly trying to find a way out. Whereas actually quite often people start to improve when they begin to do other things, nurture other areas of their life, which we often talk about with clients, is looking at how are you nurturing yourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. Are you seeing your friends? Things like that. Having fun. Yeah. Do you laugh? What are you doing for fun?
Really widening the lens, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Hall's saying, did you do anything specific to become pain-free sitting?
Well, technically, yes and no. Firstly, I think my whole approach just slowly helped me get to the place I am now. But somatic tracking and really learning about the neuroplasticity of our brain did help me on a few occasions, specifically for sitting. I can explain it a bit more if that helps. So I learned about, well, firstly, I learned, what is neuroplasticity, and that our brain is neuroplastic, that we have the ability to rewire those pathways in the brain. Mm-hmm. And I first realized it from the fact my grandma had a stroke quite a few years ago, and then she couldn't speak. And then within a year, or I don't know the time frame, quite a short period of time, she could speak again. And that was really great evidence to see that, the brain really can rewire.
Yes.
So I thought, if she can do it to speak, surely I can do it to this. Mm-hmm. I learned about the way you can use somatic tracking to really observe your physical feelings, and then basically change those signals that are firing to your brain as danger signals, to then get them to rewire in the sense that seeing them as more safety signals.
Yeah.
Alan Gordon does a lot on somatic tracking, and I had listened to a few of his demonstrations, and then tried them out myself, basically. And there was a few occasions where I was sat down at my desk, and my back pain was increasing, and I did a somatic tracking exercise where you really visualize your pain, describe it as much as you can in as much detail, and you kind of just follow it. You become curious and just see what happens. And the aim is not to get it to go away. The aim is just to let it do its thing, and you just watch. You're just an observer watching it pass by, basically. And I'm saying that's a specific moment, because when I did do that, the pain really did decrease a lot on that occasion. And I was like, wow, okay, this is just 100% evidence that this is linked to my brain, because I've just changed my pain. I didn't move an inch out of my seat. So that was really useful. And that's something I did on my jaw, because I said I had really bad jaw pain. I used to have to wear a retainer all day, every day, because if I didn't, my jaw would seize up, because it got used to a position, probably. And I thought I'd just be like that forever. And then I did this somatic tracking exercise, and within a few days, the pain in my jaw did just dissipate. I had done this whole work with my rest of my body, so I was really used to the work. But I was very excited when that happened, because I wanted to go back to the jaw surgeons and say, hey guys, can you check this out and stop doing so much jaw surgery? I did go back to them, but they haven't replied yet. We'll see.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. So I think there's a few, like you said, there's a few things that it's not about just saying, right, okay, I'm going to sit down and then do some somatic tracking. I think one of the things for a start is it's really beginning to get this acceptance that these are neural pathways and, like you said, neuroplasticity. And the first step would be to address your fears, to start really looking at those fears, picking them apart and seeing if they make sense. Because if you're just going to sit and you think your unconscious thinks that's dangerous, then it's going to be more challenging. So certainly the language, looking at the language that you're using, not even using the word pain. A group of people started calling it their symptoms Scoobies rather than mentioning the term pain. Because the more we focus on pain, and the wording pain is quite a nasty word, that you're trying to sort of soften it.
Exactly.
So definitely looking at your language around it, working on your fears, doing somatic tracking. We also use calm, relaxed breathing to soothe your nervous system, as well as emotional awareness. So again, being curious about what's happening somatically, not necessarily addressing your attention on the pain, but also on emotionally, how you're feeling, what's going on. So you're actually removing your attention and focusing on how you're feeling. And often that can help calm things down with the calm breathing. And as well as that, visualization. Visualization is huge. There's so much evidence around visualization being helpful. And I've used this with many patients once you've dealt with your fears and you start imagining yourself sitting in various different chairs, but not just I'm sitting, but visualizing yourself having fun, maybe sitting, but you're having dinner with friends and you're laughing and you're feeling wonderful, because we need that emotion to help those neural pathways sink in and get stronger. So there's lots of things that you can do to really start helping build those neural pathways and recognizing that it's safe to sit. And then to gradually just start increasing, but not to force yourself to sit long, but to sit for a while and then just wait, if the pain comes on, to go, oh, that's interesting, what's going on? And just, again, embodying it and noticing how you're feeling, and not pushing past, getting up, moving on if you need to. But all of these just help, don't they? And I need to mention a book that I'm probably going to mention in my newsletter this week as well. I haven't got around to doing it yet, probably tomorrow. And it's called Expectation, and you talk about anticipating your pain. And this is about expectation is really about the brain's ability to predict everything that's going on. And it's just fascinating. So I can't remember who the author is, but it's about predictive coding. And I'll be sending it out on my newsletter tomorrow anyway. But that might be an interesting one to read when we start realizing just how the brain predicts so much. And it's not just about pain, it's about all sorts of things. It's fascinating. And Dave's saying, so Dave Clark is obviously the president of the PPT Association, Psychophysiologic Association. Dave's saying he agrees, your body is your friend. Mind-body symptoms are the brain's way of letting you know that the emotional part of you needs attention. Absolutely. And thank you, Penny. Expectation is by David Robson. Amazing book. And before we finish, we also need to talk about Living Proof as well, that Penny just set up. And I'll let you talk about that, Charlie, because you did their first Living Proof film, didn't you?
Yes. So Living Proof is a organization set up by Penny George, and she is doing amazing stuff. Recently, she's created 2 films to do with recovery stories. They're called Stories of Hope. And she reached out to me. Well, Penny posted on a Facebook group saying if anyone has had success in the UK, would like to be part of sharing their story, get in touch. And we managed to film a whole film in COVID times. Penny lives in Scotland and never even came down to London, and managed to get a filmmaker and myself together. And also with with Dan Hinsley. They did together. They were on that together, that mission. And created the first film, and there's now 2 films out. And it's recently that Penny has launched Living Proof as is it an NGO? Is that right? If I called it the wrong word.
It's certainly a not-for-profit organisation, is it, Penny? Maybe you can let us know what you've called it.
And
a sort of charity, but yeah.
Yes. And she's now started running meetup groups for people who are on their recovery journey or have recovered. Basically, like-minded people. Yes, a social enterprise. That's the word. Sorry, couldn't get it. And Penny has done one in Scotland, and it went really well. And because I live in London, I said I would love to host one in London for anyone, basically anyone here, I'm sure, if they live close to London. And yeah, we're going to be meeting on February the 15th as the next meetup. So if there's anyone who lives in London or nearby and would like to come and, just chat with a group of people who understand this stuff, share experiences, just ideas, because sometimes it can feel quite lonely or isolating if you're discussing sometimes your progress or your struggles with people that really haven't learnt about this yet or understand it. I definitely have found that with some of my friends. They mean really well, but they just don't understand it yet. So yeah.
At the end, do you want to put the link, or Penny, maybe you could do that, put a link to both the London and the Scotland meetups, and then anybody who watches this video can actually then click those links as well. Great. So Sarah says she would be Penny says, yes, I like the yet. We're always hopeful, aren't we, with our family and friends? But anyway, Sarah said she'd be interested, and if we have a link to put up, then that'd be great. So Dave's going. Thanks for joining us, Dave, and for your input. Oh, lovely. Thank you, Penny. So we've got the link to Living Proof events. Fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to get across in this webinar, Charli?
Or just for anyone that is listening or watching who's maybe quite new to this work or is still really much on their journey, that you really do have the power inside of you to help yourself. Like, I just know that everyone does, every person on this planet, really. And, if you don't feel it yet, you will feel it at one point soon. And yeah, keep going, because it's so worth it.
Fabulous.
Yeah, probably that's what it is.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Charli. Thank you all for joining us. It's been great to have you all popping in comments and questions and things. I'm glad it helped, Paul, and I'm sure this will spur you on to progress further. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye for now.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Bye.